feel free to be very intentional about what you do twice. And I think that was part of it for me, where I knew where I wanted to be and where I felt I could make an impact. It's a lot of different places, and at times, yes, like, did I feel over committed or overextended? For sure. That was something I've also had to learn to deal with. But at the same time, they were all places and things that I really wanted to be doing and really wanted to contribute to. So that part made it easy.
Welcome to another episode of the Intersection Podcast, brought to you by the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business. I'm your host, Analisa Wade. I'm a first-year full-time MBA student here. I'm very excited about today's episode. I have two second years here with me. They're two second-year full-time students that I absolutely adore, and we're going to talk about their full 2-year experience in the program. They're wrapping up, so we're going to talk about a few things: what challenges they face, where they were when they started versus where they're at now, and maybe how they navigated the road here and some advice that you might have. But before we get started, please introduce yourself. Can you both take a moment to just tell us who you are, how long you've been here, and maybe what roles you did while you were here?
Hi, Analisa. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
My name is Tony Holubik. I am a second year MBA student, as you said. I've been on campus at the in the MBA program for 2 years. I've been on campus for closing in on 5 now, prior to that. And as far as roles I've held in the MBA program, um, the biggest one is obviously probably GBC president for the past year, which I'm thankfully gonna hand off relatively soon. But it's been fun to do that. And then beyond that, just pretty much any club or committee that you could be a part of, I've tried it at least once.
And you said you've been here 5 years. Is
Mhm.
there a reason? Is this an extended program?
No. So the MBA, the full-time MBA program is 2 years. But prior to this, I've been an assistant coach for the cheerleading team for the past 5 years now.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And what about you, Azell?
So, Annalisa, thanks so much for having us. Really excited and excited to also be here with Tony. I am also a second year full time student. I'm a dual degree, however. So, I have also been on campus for more than 2 years. We won't disclose how long, but it's taken considerably more than 2
Yeah.
years.
Okay.
My PhD is in another school. It's in the International Affairs Science and Technology program, and specifically I focus on energy. But then with the MBA, I was able to really hone in on some of the pieces that I felt like I was missing. In terms of involvement, I tried to practice this in this program, this idea of like leading from behind, as I feel as though I'm often that person to raise my hand to be involved in everything in some sort of leadership capacity. Whereas this time, I think I really sat back and like learned how to be an excellent follower. So I was like in PLC, which is our peer leadership committee. I was on the alumni committee, and then I was involved in a lot of the clubs, just about everyone. But again, just as a member.
Wow. It sounds like you both have had a full experience. This is even better than I thought because you're like Georgia Tech vets. You've been here 5. We're going to assume yours is 5. So
Yep, I
at
like it.
least. Okay. So, all right, minimum 5+ years. So, wow, we're really going to dive into this. Before we get started, though, Tony, you mentioned you're the president of GBC. What is that?
GBC is the Graduate Business Council, and essentially what it serves is as the government student body, or the government of our student body for the full-time MBA program. So what we do is essentially assign or appoint committee members, such as Azell, to some of our committees, and those committees then in turn shape essentially the student experience over the course of their 2 years. So we have 6 committees: PLC, athletics, alumni, a couple other ones, philanthropy, that basically bring the class together. They get people involved from a social perspective. So we do weekly socials as a part of a social committee. Last week was something at Paper and Clay. So it gets us out of our comfort zone as business students, maybe gets us into the arts a little bit, doing things with our hands. It's very interesting. We also have PLC, which, their whole thing is just communion of students, right? Brings second years and first years together as peer mentors to help engage people that way. From a career perspective, they also do a really good job in terms of things like snack drops, just keeping everybody relaxed through exam periods, midterms, lots of things like that. So that's what GBC is.
Well, we love the snack drops. Thank you for that.
We do love the snack drops.
And I also appreciate you being here. You sound like a very busy man. How do you like juggle all those things? We'll get into that later, but wow, that's very intense. So I guess the first question is, if you could describe your MBA experience, MBA,
Mhm.
could you describe that in one word and why would you use that word?
Sure. I would say transformative. As we think even just about starting or getting that acceptance letter and knowing that, okay, it's about to be real. Like you are getting your
Yep.
MBA at Scheller, to now I am a completely different person. I was able to really lean into a lot of the things that I was interested in, but that I didn't have any expertise in. I was also able to meet a whole new community or like network of friends and people who I know that I will be journeying with from now on. So I think transformative would be the word that I would use.
I like that.
I do not have a better word. I think transformative is probably the single best word I could uh, use. I will say challenging does also come to mind. That I think is as much of a personal choice as anything. The MBA program academically, it will push you. But beyond that, I mean, from a career perspective, switching careers, finding a new career path, finding a new set of social circles and things like that, pushing yourself from a personal growth perspective has been, especially over the past 12 months for me, probably the biggest focus. Where, again, to echo Azell's piece, the person sitting here is not the same person that started this MBA program and got that acceptance letter. They are two different people. And that's a good thing. I think that's by design.
So let's take it back to the start. You said the person that's sitting here is not the same person that started. Can I get to know the person that started? So your initial thoughts of the program and what you wanted to get out of it, and how does that compare to where we are now?
For me, my initial thought of the program was, thank God I got into the school that I very much wanted to be in. I've been living in Atlanta here for a while now. I was coaching the cheerleading team. I viewed this as, okay, if I don't get in, like, first off, I got to go tell my athletes that, dang, I didn't get in. That would not have been fun. But I wanted to switch careers. So I wasn't doing something that I was necessarily happy with from a career perspective. Like the people that I worked with, like the company I was at, but I wanted a different challenge. I wanted something that felt like would push me more to grow professionally. So that's when I started applying to MBA programs. Very fortunate to have gotten in. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, heck yeah, I did it. Now I got to go do it. Um, that was kind of the initial reaction, I guess, initial thoughts.
That was the initial, okay, I'm going to get my MBA. This is it. Can you dive a little bit deeper into who Tony was at that time? So I know you said you weren't that happy or excited to do the work that you were doing,
Mhm.
but who were you mentally? Like, who was that person? You said you weren't the same. I really want to get into this.
I think the biggest difference is potentially how I approached, for instance, class politics, class leadership was not on my list of to dos, not on my bingo card for the MBA program. I've never been a team captain. I played sports all my life growing up. I was never a team captain. I was never rushing to go like lead. I was in chess club in high school, but I wasn't like going to lead that, right? I was very much, I don't want to say content, but happy to play my role in places. Coming here, and I do remember one of the things that I think I did really well, not that you asked this necessarily, but I remember sitting in orientation and talking to someone, and it was, I want to say the PDS slam, or
Oh, the pitch
The
the
competition,
pitch.
pitch
Hmm.
like
competition.
the personal
Yeah,
statements.
and the personal statement slam, and someone was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that necessarily," and I was like, "Neither do I. So I'm gonna do it because I am here to make myself as uncomfortable as
Yeah.
possible." And I think that I accomplished that in spades. Um, but I think that was one thing that shifted drastically for me over the past 20-ish months or so from right now. I think I was never one to necessarily shy away from a challenge, but now I think I actively pursue things that make me feel uncomfortable. And I use it more as a barometer for, okay, this is not necessarily the thing that I don't want to say want to be doing, but feels comfortable. I very much feel like it's outside of my comfort zone. Okay, we're going to go do that.
So you came and you hit the ground running. You dived directly into the challenge, and I can't wait to hear about how you conquered it. That's very inspiring. Azell, what was your story? Who was Azell before MBA, and who's Azell now?
I think a lot of what Tony said echoed really closely home. And in some ways, I feel like we switched roles. So the Azell then was I was student body president. I was that person who always led from in front. Like I was the person who was like, yeah, I'll vote. I'll be the leader of this thing. I'll do this. I will volunteer for whatever leadership capacity to help serve. And I was in my PhD program, and I recognized that academia, though fantastic, was certainly just not the career path for me. And I needed to make that pivot. What I also knew was that once I'm very mature, once I start something, I want to finish it.
Mm.
And I want to finish it well, and stronger than I started. And I think that the MBA was kind of mm, that pivot for me. It allowed me to really be able to move from being an academic and a PhD student who's going into academia to being a student that can shift into consulting, that can do something outside of the academic sphere. Uh, I'll also say that just even thinking about from like a personality perspective, um, that I have always been really empathetic and like curious, and I think like that has just exacerbated through this program. I think
Hmm.
because we are challenged so often, we are put in uncomfortable situations. We are in like new spaces that we're navigating with new people, but people who are fast friends. It really forces you to get to know who you are intimately, and like that growth is certainly exponential. So I think like a lot of who I was is like even more so.
I'm having a hard time over here because I can relate to everything that you're saying. I'm
Yeah.
not at the end of the road. I am almost midpoint at my journey. So I'm just like, whew, still going through that. Yep. Still going through that. Yep. Haven't
Hmm.
seen that yet, but I will. So I'm processing as you both are speaking about your experience. And I also think it's very interesting how you came here for the same program, but both intentionally wanted a completely different journey. He wanted to be in the forefront, leadership, see me, I'm going to challenge myself. And you wanted to challenge yourself in a way to kind of step back. And I think that's beautiful. I feel like I'm right in the middle where sometimes I want to be in the front and sometimes I want to sit back. So trying to find that hybrid balance right here.
Hmm.
I think that's really, really cool. So we talked about what you came here for and how you were going to challenge yourself. Now, in the midst of that, where is there a moment where maybe looking back, you decided to do certain things in the program that you might do differently now? So basically, initially in the program, you might have took certain steps or took certain things on. Is there any advice that you would give yourself from that time and what you would change?
I want to say there are definitely times where I had doubts that I was doing, I guess, quote unquote, the right thing. I will say, would I do it again differently? Honestly, I don't know if I would, because I think if anything, not that I want the outcome to necessarily be the same, but I think if anything, the way I approached it is the only way I would be comfortable approaching it with who I am now. I did it explicitly from the standpoint of I wanted to move myself out of my comfort zone. Um, and I feel like I very much accomplished that. So it was not always smooth. It did not always go according to plan, but I think that's part of it. Where previously, like talking maybe a little bit about like who Tony was before that, where it's like I still consider myself an introvert to this day. Most people look at me funny when I say that. Um, but that's someone where it's like I go a little bit more out of my way to try to help people engage in a social community or be the person where, man, like I don't know if I want to go talk to them. Like that's weird. It's kind of intimidating. And I'm like, I'm probably not that special. If I'm having these thoughts, they may also have those thoughts. So why not just like be the person to bridge that gap? Um, those are things that I feel like I came away from this program a completely different person as. And looking back on it, I think I don't know if I would have done anything differently.
That's great. No regrets.
Yeah. So
You cannot echo what he said.
I'm
We're not
not.
gonna do
I'm
this. We're not
not.
doing this the whole
I'm
episode.
not. But no, so I came into the program with a mantra and it's SOAR. And SOAR for me stood for seeking out new opportunities, owning your path. So that's the O. Always expressing gratitude, so just being
Mm,
grateful for every opportunity and every moment. And then R was to remember to have fun. And that's how I approached the MBA program. And I think that I did that for the most part. I think if there's anything that I could change, it would be to have more fun. I think that certainly there were times when I had competing priorities. So I couldn't make, a social, or I couldn't just have that random coffee chat that you wanted to have. And I think now at the end of the road, looking back, I'm like, probably should have had that coffee. So if I could say anything that I would do differently, is really to like engage more from a social side and like really, really remember that R. Like don't
mhm.
let it slide. Have fun.
Well, maybe I'm just
Yeah.
lame because I don't have any of that. This whole sword thing, like, I love that. Like, I need to come up with something. I still have time, and you still have time to take on the coffee chat or do fun experiences as a social coming up every week. So you have a
Yeah.
little time to put that into your journey. Switching gears here a little bit. Let's make it a little bit lighter.
Okay.
What was your favorite experience? You only can pick one. Your favorite experience in the MBA program. Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Single favorite
Single
experience?
favorite experience.
Social, I would say ShellX. Um,
Hmm.
so ShellX in the spring, yes, spring last year. I'm like, was it the spring or the fall? In the spring last year, ShellX was absolutely fantastic. It was so cool seeing our classmates. So like Nate went up there and like talked about puns. He gave a
Mhm.
whole
What is ShellX?
Sorry. So
Oh.
backing it up, ShellX is our Scheller version of like a TED talk, essentially a short, impromptu in some ways, but planned in others, talk about whatever topic you're passionate about. So you have first year and second year students who are interested in hobbies as varying as, Nate with his puns, all the way to macaws in South America, like
Wow.
Spencer. And they come up there and they share about whatever topic they're passionate about, using minimal slides. So it's really a unique way to hear from classmates who some of them may be very extroverted in class, so you kind of knew a lot about them before. But then you also have those who may not say as much in class, but were really passionate and
Mhm.
excited to share. So I think like ShellX to me is just a really awesome representation of who we are as Scheller because it expresses that like diversity. So I would say ShellX.
I haven't been to one yet. I think the
It's
spring
coming
one. Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. I'll be at that one. I'll
It's
be
coming
there.
up.
There was
You
only.
need to be
In
speaking at
fact, you
it.
should be. Yep, exactly.
I thought about it. So, what are the topics again? Like,
Anything,
Anything.
anything. You
So
could
you
do
can.
this, Annalisa. You
Yep.
really?
could do how amazing
Yep.
you get dressed up and do all of this.
Yep.
Oh, you're making me nervous
You
now.
no, you
Absolutely not.
absolutely
Tony,
should.
you're trying to cop out and not answer
You
the
could just
question.
be
Nope,
an
we're not
absolute.
doing
You just
that.
go up there and
In
be an
fact,
absolute boss and talk about how to be a boss.
it is now my personal mission to ensure that Annalisa is a ShellX speaker in spring of 2024.
This is
Check.
recorded.
I'm
I have to do it
You have to
now
do it
I'm
now.
because
yeah.
we're
I'm
recording
texting
it.
you after this. She's gonna be very relieved that she has
Yep.
to recruit one less person.
One less person that we need.
Sign me up. Fine, I'll do
Very
it.
good.
But now you have to give me a great story.
Okay, academically, this one is big for me because I am set to graduate-ish, fingers crossed,
Ish.
with roughly a 3.9, and I had a 4.0 all through the first semester until I hit a program that is relatively difficult academically, but I still got pretty good grades, only 1B. That's big for me because a part of the like Tony was not the class president type. In high school, I didn't put a lot of effort towards academics, even in early days of college. I started at the University of Kentucky. I had a good GPA to start off with, and then I got into a very bad car accident. And at that point, it was pretty much like, okay, I need a 2.0 to be able to compete in my sport. And I knew how to keep a 2.0. Let me tell you. But then, like, after I got done with cheerleading, GPA kind of hockey sticked, which I don't think I would have gotten in here otherwise if I hadn't been more academically inclined. But this is the first time where I've been focused for this length of time for academic purposes, and I'm really happy that I'm going to graduate with about a 3.9, give or take. And I've been able to successfully do that. Like, it feels like a part of it feels like, okay, I have finally lived up to the lofty potential that I think my parents saw in me, which, who knows?
No, that's really awesome. So you're around like-minded people, you're navigating this MBA
Hmm.
journey, but then you're also having so much fun. That leads me to my next question about just the challenges you face here.
Hmm.
And the first thing I want to get into is he's been listing out all these things that he's done here. GBC, like I can't even keep up with the acronym. So how are you juggling like your coursework, these extracurricular activities, your personal life if you have one? How are you I'm kidding, but how are you juggling all those things?
The joke is poorly.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, I think that's another thing where, for me at least, it feels part of the good part about the MBA experience for me, and I think this part is not so different from previous Tony, but I think all of these things that I've decided to do have been additive to, I think, each other. Um, from the context or from the standpoint of, I get energy through feeling like I'm making an actual contribution. So I have spoken, I think, to like our incoming first year class. And one of the things that I try to preach on is, from my perspective, like, try everything once. Do the things you think are going to make you uncomfortable. Like, get out of that comfort zone, go do the thing.
I remember when you said that.
Feel free to be very intentional about what you do twice.
Mhm.
And I think that was part of it for me, where I knew where I wanted to be and where I felt I could make an impact. It's a lot of different places. And at times, yes, like, did I feel over committed or overextended? For sure. That was something I've also had to learn to deal with. But at the same time, they were all places and things that I really wanted to be doing and really wanted to contribute to. So that part made it easy. Now, part of the growth or part of the challenge was, okay, now I do feel a little bit overwhelmed. I do feel overextended. How do I manage that? That's also been a bit of a growth, I guess, process for me, where I've had to learn how to listen to, okay, you're not showing up as your best self. You're doing too much. Figure out a way to prioritize what it is that you want to be doing, where you feel like you can contribute, what's important now. And sometimes it's taking a step back from everything else for a day, a week, what have you, and then getting right back in there. So I think that's how I would answer.
So you kind of strategize and prioritize maybe what was the most important thing that week, that
Yeah.
day, that hour. I get that.
Hmm.
Azell, what about you?
I think for me, it was really about being intentional with both my no's and my yeses. And I think that even that idea about learning to not always need to be the in front leader, but learning to lead from the back or just be part of the crew, like
Hmm.
figuring out and really being intentional with how I invested like my energy or my time at any given point in time. So I did a lot of check-ins with myself. Um, and if I realized that I was doing something just because I would pause because first of all, why did you say yes to that? And then secondly, I would say, okay, are you actually able to show up as your best self doing whatever thing it was? And if the answer was no, then that probably meant that like it was something that I didn't necessarily
Hmm.
need to be a part of. So really, really being intentional with um, again going back to that idea about like seeking out new experiences. So in order to really embrace that, you have to say yes with intentionality. But then with the O, with owning your path, again, that's about intentional no's, right? Because you need to know like what is on your path and like what actually adds value not only to your life but to the broader community, and like how can you contribute and like make the best impact that you can.
Yeah,
Wow, that was really good. I love that.
that was really good.
It's like I'm taking mental notes, but I'm also like trying to listen at the same time. This is really good.
They've got it recorded.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can
Oh,
watch
you're
you
right.
can
You're right.
watch
You're
it
right. I can go back and watch it. Okay. So kind of you talked about your full experience here, and I guess this is a personal question for me that I'm throwing out because I would love the answer to this.
back.
What was the experience like going into the second year, seeing the first years like me, don't throw me under the bus, but seeing the first years like me, like watching us in that first semester just like going crazy.
Hmm.
How did you internalize not being that person but seeing that? Like what was that like for you?
I had no choice. I just reacted from the standpoint of one, they asked me to talk to y'all a lot, so I did see it like full frontal. I also had no choice. I conceptualized it the same way I do coaching by and large. Um, I did not treat y'all like my quote unquote athletes that I coach on the cheerleading team, but a lot of it was okay, I'm in a position where I think I can help and offer some advice. And the reality is y'all's future is not my future. You're going to have to own your own path, own your own career, your path, your social outcomes, the whole program, like that's set up for y'all. Where I thought I could step in was saying, okay, hey, in the grand scheme of things, I am 12 months ahead of you. I am not, I am your peer. I am not some president of GBC, like way up here. Like that's not how I wanted to approach a leadership position, and it's certainly not how I wanted to approach an entire student body. Um, I think the thing where I'm lucky in a lot of regards to have coaching experience like that. That gave me the perspective to just say, okay, my only goal is to unabashedly give you my honest opinion and say, this is how I would think about it. This is what I would do. You're going to have to own this is what I see as kind of the positives and negatives of each side, but the decision's yours. And I'm happy to talk through it. Lots of consulting recruiting where it's like thinking about, what kind of firm people want to target or how to case prep or things like that, or just other career decisions. Happy to offer any and all advice in that regards, but at the same time, remove as much of my personal biases and feelings as I possibly could. That's kind of what it was like for me. That's what I tried to do. Who knows if I succeeded, to be entirely honest.
I think you did great. Word around is that you're phenomenal.
Yeah,
So
I'll
I'd
take it.
agree.
Thank you.
Check.
check. Yeah.
I think that I approached it in two ways. So one, I really leaned into this idea of mentorship. I loved being able to serve as a mentor to the first years. I had like a very special mentee as well. Um,
Who's your mentee?
her name is Analisa.
Oh, no way.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't?
Well,
No, I didn't. I didn't.
we're like faking the moment. He's
No,
really
he's
in the
really.
moment.
I was like, oh yeah. No,
But
so
can you talk about that though? Like
yeah,
what is that?
absolutely.
How did you do
So,
that?
as part of the peer leadership committee, one of the, I guess, programs might be the
Mhm.
best phrase for it that we put on is to actually pair second year full time students with first year full time students. And it could either be based on career interests or hobbies. And the first years kind of dictate what they think they need. So second years volunteered to serve as the mentors, and I volunteered to serve as a mentor. Tony was a mentor.
I was a mentor.
And I really leaned into that because I think that was one way that I could do more intimate, like one-on-one coaching and mentorship. Because I think sometimes just like thinking about the class as a whole was slightly overwhelming to think about how you could actually, help. But I knew that if I could even just make a difference in one or two first year students' lives, then that to me was more than enough. So I really leaned into that and loved being able to be your mentor and
And
then
you just had
also a
one
doula
mentor? Oh, no. Okay, okay.
was my second
Mentee.
mentee. So she was also amazing. So I just got an opportunity to have two incredible first year women who, just so proud. And then I think the next piece is that I'm actually a certified career coach. Really random fact about me. Yes.
Why am I the least impressive person in this room? What the heck? I feel ambushed.
GBC president style.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, least.
No. But what's cool about that is that it actually also allowed me to like use some skills that I hadn't used in a while.
Mm.
So I got to help people with their interview preparation, like the first years, especially during those moments of panic. I could, just be like, all right, let's talk through this. And I sit with them, I help them like think through what are the things that are actually challenging you, and like what are your fears, and then how can we, overcome or like move past those. So I think those were the two like paths that I chose.
Will you be my mentor for the next 2
2
months?
months, I got you.
Perfect.
No, no,
All
no.
right.
She still has to help me. I'm still here. No, you
We'll
didn't.
share.
Fine. It's all about sharing, community, all that. But you are a phenomenal mentor. When she told me that she was a career coach, I leaned in. I
Mhm.
leaned in. I got like spreadsheets. I have all these are the companies. This is what I'm thinking about doing. And she was there with me every step of the way, even when it changed every week. What I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. But you were very instrumental in where I'm going and what I'm doing now. So I thank you for that. I'm glad I got an opportunity to tell you that because you're
Aw.
great. Um, we talked about mentorship. Just a couple more things I want to touch on really quickly.
Yeah.
We talked about mentorship, leading from behind, and I want to talk more about peer leadership. Maybe can you both give a story about a time when someone in your that was in your peer group like supported you through a challenging moment, something like that, or how the community has been supportive to you?
My example is going to be from the standpoint of recruiting. And that's one of those things where I interned at a consulting firm, and I remember thinking, even at that point in time, it was technically the last interview I had, all that jazz. I'd gotten some no's and some wait lists before that. And I just remember sitting down and talking to a few people that I had met quite literally 7-ish months before. And that was a thing where I was the person that was not comfortable asking for help or kind of accepting. Maybe it's the vulnerability part. I wish it wasn't, but maybe it honestly probably is. But okay, like I don't know what to do here, and like I don't know how this is going to end up. Fortunately, I ended up getting an internship offer, like all of that worked out. And then when it came time to like, okay, like do I want to necessarily like head back to this company or do I want to potentially recruit? Um, I will say from the perspective of making that decision, it was very much my decision and I owned it. And the people around me, even the ones where um, you know, I interned with him, I worked with him. They were there to support me through that as a journey. Even recent alumni. So the idea that, okay, yeah, like we would love to have you come to our firm. We would love for you to be there. We think the world of you. But at the same time, if you think that the best thing for you is to pursue a different potential opportunity, some of those people were the people fighting hardest for me and pushing me the hardest to then go do that. And that's something that's in terms of environments that I want to be in and environments that I want to contribute to, I can think of no better environment where the focus is on setting you up to do your best so you can contribute at your highest level, do the thing that really excites you, regardless of whether it's recruiting or just from a personal perspective. That's what I feel like I found in this community from my peers. And that's one of those things, again, where it's like transformative, right? That's how I want to approach wherever I go from here.
That was beautiful. I agree. Same level of support. I've experienced many of things here that we won't mention, but I've experienced both great things and some just challenging things. And to know the support was real and people actually cared, not just
Mhm.
like, oh, yeah, I care. Oh, how
Yeah.
you doing? And then move on about their day. But I care. How can I help you? And then
Mhm.
actually taking actions to help
Mhm.
you. It's just a beautiful thing. To wrap it up, this is the most important question of the whole podcast. Was the MBA experience worth it? It's like a three-part question. Like if you say no, I'm gonna cut it out. But no, but in all seriousness, was the MBA experience worth it? And what are your next steps? Where are you going? And how do you feel about the whole overall experience?
So absolutely 100% yes. Without the MBA, I would not be able to say that I'm going to be returning as a senior associate at strategy and which I'm
Wow.
super duper excited about. And without the MBA, I really, really, truly don't think I would be able to say that I had achieved that career goal that really excites me and like you know, just the smile that you see on my face is truly because of the program and like how we've been able to grow in the program and the things that I've been able to experience, the people I've met, the opportunities that I've had, the support that I've had. Scheller, transformative, changed my life. 100% worth it.
So you're going to strategy in. Will you be in Atlanta or where? Like, what does that look like for you?
I can
Sad
be
face.
sad about that.
I'll be sad about
Wait,
that.
what? I missed it.
She's not going to be in Atlanta.
Where are you going?
I will be moving to Dallas,
Wow. Okay.
which will be a
Change.
new journey,
Yeah.
Another part of that transformation,
That's awesome. I love that.
Okay, for me, too long didn't read version. Yes, 10 out of 10 worth it. Would do it again in a heartbeat. Actually, would I do it again?
Yes, you would.
I would do it again. Just like I would do it over. Post MBA again. Yes, from a career perspective, I genuinely wasn't even thinking of going in consulting where I'll be going afterwards. So I will be going into consulting. I'll be staying here in Atlanta at Bain Company. And again, very excited about that. It was not on my radar at the beginning of the MBA program. I thought I wanted to go to tech product management. And it's just funny the people that you meet, like speaking of that, like it's a recent alumni of Scheller who works at Bain now, that she was one of the most influential and helpful people in figuring this out, helping me figure this out. She was like, I worked in tech product management. I work in consulting now. You want to do these things? And I was like, yeah, I do want to do both those things. How'd you make that decision? She's like, here, go talk to these people, go talk to these people. Like she set that whole thing up. And like that was another instance of wow, just people going above and beyond for me, which really sold it for me. I think beyond the career aspects, even if that never happened, even if I didn't have a job lined up and I was going to go be broke and not like be looking for a job still, I would absolutely do it again in a heartbeat. I said at the beginning of this, and the person sitting here now is not the same person that got their acceptance letter 24 months ago. It's not a, I think, better or worse situation. It's just the amount of growth I've had from a personal perspective and the differences in the way that I approach personal relationships and building connections, thinking about hopefully what I view as a better ability to create an environment where people feel welcome, empowered to contribute, those sorts of things. That means way more than necessarily like any specific job or anything like that. That's something that I don't think I would trade. Whatever I would have to do again to do that, I would do in a heartbeat.
Wow. We love this version of Tony, by the way. So keep it up. I'm excited to see where you both go next. I'm also looking forward to our continued mentor-mentee relationship. And I guess you can
I'm
join
excited
us.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get some. Heck yeah.
I guess you can join us in this. And I know I said that was the last question. This is really the last thing. Is there anything that you want to get off your chest before you leave Scheller's doors? Like, what's the
Is
last?
this the burn book
This
question?
no, I'm saying this is kind of like the end of the journey for you. So, is there anything you want to advice that you want to kind of give, or just anything you want to say? This is how you will be remembered. I'm kidding, but yeah.
No pressure.
My version of that is, I think it ties into what I said earlier. Make more mistakes.
Love that.
I like that.
Like the optimal rate of failure is not 0. Make more mistakes. Get out of your comfort zone. Do things where you think you're going to fall flat on your face, and just show up and try real hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that I would say that my little mantra that I took when I started is what I would say to any first year is you have 2 years. So try to soar. Seek out those new experiences. Own your path. Be completely aware of your failures, your opportunities, and whatever. Just own all of it. And then always be grateful. That the gratitude piece, we're in a community that is special. And I think that it's really easy in just getting so bogged down with everything that you're doing in your day-to-day life to sometimes forget to be grateful for that moment and that opportunity that you have. So really be grateful for everything. And then last, remember to have fun. Those 2 years pass by so fast. It's 100% worth it. The person that you come in with the person that you leave, completely different people. Transformative.
This was so inspirational. I'm getting emotional just listening to you both. Like I'm graduating. That's stuff another year. But thank you both for joining me on the Intersection podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Intersection podcast. You can also catch us on SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, and now YouTube. Hope you tune in again for another episode.
Sure.